Everybody, in accordance with Moorabool Shire's governance rules, the meeting will be live streamed. We've got one apology in Councillor Keogh, who's on a mission somewhere. Can I get someone to confirm the minutes from the last meeting? Thank you, Councillor Minari. Thank you, Councillor Berry. Those in favour? So carried. Righto. Matters arising from those minutes, anything? No? Let's get into the business side of things. Disclosure of any conflict of interest. I'll be disclosing a conflict of interest on item 9.2, earthworks associated with trolling track at 19 Carwen Lane, Deland, as I am a neighbour. So when we get that item, we'll have to get the Deputy Mayor to sit in the chair. We may have to have that moved, and then away we go. Righto, so moving right along, we'll move into 9.1, which we have a speaker there. This is the earthworks to the Creek Crossing retrospective at 202 Mount Blackwood Road, Merniong, and we have Bryce McGrath, who's the applicant and the landowner, I assume. Yes. If you could come up the front there, that table, there's a little button on the mic. Yep. If you give that a push, and we'll you've got 3 minutes to tell your story. We'll give you a bit of lace. If you're getting close, we'll probably wind you up.
Yeah, no, I've just got a page. I'm just a little bit illiterate, so it might take me a little bit, but please excuse me.
Take your time. No, you take your time.
Thanks for your time. So, to council, my name is Bryce McGrath. I'm the owner of 202 Mount Blackwood Road, Merniong. On the 8th of February 2024, I cleaned my track crossing the Corkaperra Creek, only to make it safe to cross. It is my only access across the creek to the other half of my property. I did not know I needed a planning permit, but I have certainly learnt my lesson. I've always responded to council and Melbourne Water. I've also shown council and Melbourne Water the site. Melbourne Water said works are minor. The waterway appeared stable and they don't propose any further requirements around this. They have educated me on the waterway, and we are now a part of the Melbourne Waterway Improvement Program, Upper Corkaperra Creek. Council members inspected the site on Friday the 16th of August 2024, and the site photos show that the works on the creek were minor and include some soil movement to create a safer track across the creek. Photos were provided by council. Infrastructure agreed the works were minor and no planning permit is required in this instance. This is our dream property, our sanctuary. We've had two beautiful, healthy boys since moving there, who love our home, love exploring our property and maintaining it. Last year alone, we planted 1,400 native trees across our land and plan to plant more this year. I'm deeply sorry for this misunderstanding. It will not happen again. My neighbour, who is pushed for this planning permit, has tried to destroy my wife and I since we moved into the property, late 2018, early 2019. They have threatened us relentlessly.
Right, I've got to put it. We're going to try and keep the personal stuff out.
Yeah, okay. Yeah,
we'll just stick to the permit if we can.
Okay, so my wife and I are hoping we can reach a resolution tonight to put this matter to rest. Thanks very much for your time.
Well spoken. Righto, any questions, councillors?
No, Mr Mayor, but I'm happy to move the recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor Bingham. Do I have a second? Thank you, Councillor Sullivan. Is there any dissent? Those in favour? So carried. There you go. It's that easy.
Granted. Thanks very much.
Yeah, you're aware of the recommendation? You've seen it? Yes.
Yeah, I'll just have to get someone to read it over to me and that, and we'll get on that straight away. Yep.
Yeah, right.
Yep.
Yeah,
thank you very much.
Help out there. Can we,
yeah. No, that's all right. I'll get someone to. It's just I'll take a bit of trouble reading and making sense of it.
That's fine.
Sorry to waste your time. Thank you.
No. Well done anyway. Well done.
Cheers.
Anyway.
Thank you very much.
No worries.
Yep.
Right. I'm going to.
Okay.
I'll be leaving the room. If I could call on the Deputy Mayor to take the chair. Someone second it. Thank you, Councillor Bingham. Those in favour? So carried.
Councillors, thank you. Item 9.2 2 is earthworks associated with the trotting track at 90 Carween Lane, Balan. Councillors, we have 2 speakers to this item, and I'll invite Carly Burke up first. Take the chair. Carly, you would have heard, turned on, but you would have heard previously, you're allowed up to 3 minutes, and we'll give you reasonable leniency, and then councillors may have some questions of you.
Yep, now I feel the pressure. So I'm acting on behalf of Des Conroy, the owner of 50 Dalesford Road, Balan, Victoria, and it's in relation to the earthworks that were undertaken. So the subject land is 90 Carwin Lane, and it was sold to Madigan and Rollings on or around about November 2020. This piece of land that we're talking about sort of goes back to the 1970s. So Carwin Lane and a roadside land were basically originally acquired, well, parts of the land were acquired by the Country Roads Board, and these lanes were created to give access to my client's property. Over time, the access lanes, whilst formally created, were never adequately fenced or constructed. So Carwin's Lane sort of ends, and then there becomes a sort of an easement in effect looking from plans. Despite this, the lane provides an essential role in preserving access for farming activities for my client's adjacent property known as what I'm going to call the Western Land. And the Western Land is basically landlocked. So the only way he can access that is through this lane. There's the freeway, neighbouring properties, the Werribee River, and behind him the property in question. So I guess the issues come about from what are the objections basically. There's been the installation of a deep drainage system up to 1 metre in some location, and there are access gates which now significantly impede his ability to access the land. And why does Des need that? He needs that because it's a farming enterprise. He needs to get cattle, stock moving. He needs heavy machinery to be able to access that. There is a very small bridge that goes across the Werribee River, which I've been on, which is it fits a ute and that's it. So his issues are encroachment and accessibility issues. The trotting track encroaches onto the lane and the roadside land, blocking essential access to his Western Land. It's historically been crucial for the transport of machinery, livestock, farming vehicles for the operations of his farming business. The applicants proceeded to construct the track and associated system without first obtaining the required planning approvals or conducting proper surveys. In their application, they admit this by referring to the southern boundary error within their application. The Western Land is imperative to Des's conduct business farming operations for the, as I've said, transport of livestock, crop fertilisation, use of heavy machinery. He can't get across there because it will damage the drains and gates. And there's also a failure to honour the historical usage and agreement. There was an agreement with him and the previous owner for the use of this land.
Thank you, Carly. Councillors, any questions for Carly? Councillor Minari.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Carly, I just want to ask a few questions. So, are you aware that the applicant obtained a lease from the Department of Transport for that land? Because obviously it butts onto Freeway Road Reserve.
Yes.
Yeah. So has your client, or the person you're representing, contacted the relevant authorities for the Freeway Reserve?
To be honest, I don't know the answer to that. I think back in the 1970s when he effectively, they compulsory acquired the land, there was an understanding that he would have the use and access. I'm not sure that he was aware that there was a licence agreement that was able to be purchased for a rental fee at that time. But to my knowledge, I'm not aware that he's made contact with them. But it's my understanding that the applicants have now got that, and they made that after it became evident to them that...
So it was obviously available.
Yeah.
Thank you. That's all. Thank you.
Councillors, any other questions? Councillor Sullivan?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Would it be fair to say that Cowan Lane sort of functions like a service road to the properties and also to the properties to the east of this property?
Yes.
So it's sort of a continuation of the formed Cowan Lane that exists to the east?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Sullivan. Councillors, any other questions? No? Thank you, Carly.
Thank you.
Councillors, our second speakers, I'm assuming you're speaking together, will be Joanna Mangion and Andrew Rawlings. Again, we'll allow you 3 minutes, but given there's two of you, we'll give you reasonable flexibility and councillors may choose to ask you some questions.
Do I have to press this button?
No, it's on.
We didn't really have a big speech planned or anything, but as per the planning permit, I've just written, yes, the track was constructed unknowingly at the time on an apparent unformed CRB road. It was brought to our knowledge from our neighbour. Apparently back in the 70s, it was meant to be fenced off, but it never was. So we had no idea. When council actually came out, Victoria Mack, she had no idea because it was never formed. We endeavoured to find maps, measurements, road listings, and we actually had to delve into it to find where this unformed road was. At the time, we were actually paying rates on that land until I told council that we're actually paying rates on that part of land and we shouldn't have been. So on the Registry of Public Roads, the gravelled road actually goes 275 metres and that ends at our driveway. So that's where we weren't sure what happened. So we just scratched a little trotting track. Issues come up. We've covered every issue the council has asked us to with the waterways, environmental people, everything, the Aboriginal cultural heritage. It's a little dirt track. Des claims that he needs it for access to the property. When Vicky Mack come out, there's no gate. There's never been a gate there. He has never accessed the property through that entrance. So there's not a gate there. There's not a formed gate at all. The fenced off
So
part.
for Mr Conroy to get access to his property, he's actually got to now, he said he needs access, he's got to put gateways in because there's no gateway in that piece of land. So since the 1970s, there's never been access to that property through that unformed, unfenced property.
So yes, we went to the Department of Transport. We disclosed that we did put a bit of a dirt trotting track on there and they were fine with that. They just said we'll just pay the lease, and that in the lease agreement it actually states for grazing horses and for exercise of horses with the trotting track. So we've tried to cover everything council has asked us to.
Thank you. Councillors, any questions for Joanna or Andrew? Councillor Sullivan.
Thank you, Mr Chair. Just a question. It seems, looking at the aerial photography that was supplied by council officers, it would appear you've actually taken virtually the whole of the property that you have for a trotting track. Was there some reason for that? I mean,
Actually, that aerial shot was so when we
He's not
first.
asking you that. He's asking you why you've used the full from fence to fence.
Oh, because it measured out to
That's-
800 metres. Is that?
That's like the
Well,
safety sort of region, like safety for the to be able to work a horse on it comfortably and safely, like roughly that circumference. Yeah.
So-
was.
So I'm just
So-
saying the original aerial shot was when it was first formed. It was pretty dry and dirt, and we ploughed a little bit of the inside, so it's not that wide in real life.
Councillor
No,
Sullivan?
Sorry, thank you, Mr Chair.
That,
Just looking
yeah.
on the information supplied to councillors, there's an aerial photo that shows, and I'm not quite sure what date it's taken at, but it sort of shows the track and it virtually extends to the whole of the property. I mean, it just goes to the perimeter all the way around.
Yes.
So you're saying that's because you need 800 metres?
Yeah, it just
Well,
makes it
not-
comfortable bends for the horse to get around. So if it's, the wider the bends, a horse can just jog around easily. If it's tight and small, yeah.
That means your question.
Yep, Councillor Sullivan.
Has any consideration been given to moving the track, that southern section north?
Then it would cause that bottom end to be pretty sharp.
No, but what I'm saying is almost like a displacement if you were to take what's there and just move it up.
But then,
It wouldn't interfere with the curve.
Into the other neighbour's property?
no.
No.
Sorry, because then with the trotting track, you have to have a little bit of straight run for a horse to sort of extend out. So, or if that, it would just be almost a circle, and it's not
Okay.
really.
I'm not
Yeah,
trying to say. So I just, so there was no consideration given
We
it.
did look at it, but then the track would be tiny. It'd be
But
no
we
more
didn't
than
need
a.
to because once we acquired the land, we leased the land, like if we'd have knew, if back in the 70s when it was done and apparently our block of land, 90 Carween Lane, originally belonged to the Conroys, so it was subdivided off that block onto that block. At that stage, Mr Conroy was meant to have fenced that easement. If that easement had been fenced, everyone would have been clear on that was our boundary, so we could have constructed it in the boundary.
So what I'm saying is, had that been the case, correct me, you would have truncated your track to the available land. Am I correct?
If that was the case and we knew where the boundary was, we probably would have repositioned the track in a different position. And when we were talking to Vicky about it, the planning department, because obviously there's a cost involved of moving the track and we're not rich people. So we thought, well, if we lease the land, then we've got some leeway.
And because the land
Yeah.
had never been used, like, so, yeah. So it was advised to us through the council and that, to lease the land, do all the permits, and hopefully everything was okay.
Okay. Thank you,
So,
Mr.
yeah.
Thank you,
originally,
Councillor Sullivan.
If we had known, we would have put it on
We
a
probably
different
actually wouldn't have
angle.
brought the property, actually, because we
Yep.
brought the property. to do
Councillor
that.
Bingham has a question.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Just viewing this aerial photo here, you've got that tree line that's obviously to the south of your property. It still exists? Is that
Tree line.
that tree line?
So there's trees there, is that what you're saying?
According to this photo, there is. But
There
Not
is
sure.
one big major red gum tree there, yes.
Well, basically, my question is, does that tree line inhibit heavy machinery access anyway?
It would, because the tree is in the middle of the fence line. There's a big red gum
Oh,
tree.
yeah, right in the middle of the 20-metre axe, yeah.
Yeah.
You wouldn't get around it. I drive trucks for a living, and there's no way known you'd get through there around this,
You've actually got a
tree.
photo,
around the tree without disturbing it with heavy machinery.
and it's a big old tree.
Councillors, any further? Councillor Berry.
Thanks, Mr Deputy Mayor. So I get this understanding correct, you now lease, where you've gone over the boundary of
Yes.
your land, you now lease that from DD?
Department of Transport, yes.
Yeah, thank you.
With their knowledge of the trotting track on that land, and they have
Thank
no
you.
objection.
Councillors, no further questions?
Question of officers, Mr. Chairman.
Yep, Councillor Sullivan.
When the time comes. If no.
So, Joanna and Andrew, thank you for your time. And no further questions. Resume your seats.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My question of officers is, have they actually cited the lease from DTP and what conditions were on that, if any?
Mr. Bazudnowd.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll hand over to Mr. Lavelle to clarify that.
Yeah, so through the chair, the lease agreement was provided to council. It's actually quite a detail. It's a 21-page lease, which covers liability, use of the land, and also terms of commencement date and expiry date to that lease.
Councillor Sullivan?
Is council aware that whether DTP consider the rights of other property owners that may be using Carwin Lane, or we're not aware of that?
So through the chair, it was a two-part process with DDP. One, they had to provide owner's consent, so they authorised their applicant to lodge an application, and the lease requirement is specific to this trotting track. As far as other parties being involved, they would have to probably speak separately to DDP to see whether they can use that land or for some type of purpose.
Okay.
Thank you, Councillor Sullivan. Councillors, any further questions? No. Councillors, in your documents you have a recommendation of approval. I'm in your hands, councillors. Anyone? Moved Councillor Minari. Second and Councillor Vendetti Taylor. Any objections? Councillor Sullivan. Okay, we're going to have a debate. Councillor Minari.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Mayor. I'm feeling this is pretty clean cut. You know, we're sort of discussing land that's not ours. And they've gone to quite length to, although they made a mistake at the beginning, they've rectified quite a few of those mistakes and have gone to a lot of length to rectify that. I understand that it's that it's challenging for landowners that have, I think, owned land for a long time. I suppose that these are the challenges that we face as council, where these sorts of things prop up with Crown land or other things. So I'm quite comfortable with the decision that council has made. I know they've looked into it thoroughly, and yeah, that's all. Thank you.
Councillor Vendetti Taylor.
Pretty much they've gone out to rectify the issue, as Ms Minari said, and they have a lease agreement in place that has no issues with the track being on it. So basically there's no issues with council. So it's basically been recommended to be approved, and I support that.
Thank you. Councillor Sullivan.
Thank you, Mr Chair. I can understand the predicament that people find themselves in, I clearly can. But this is a retrospective permit for something that's already occurred, which actually, in fact, impacts on other people. And I think we have to be mindful of that. We've had similar retrospective permits come to council, I think at our last council meeting, our last DAC meeting rather, where something was done and someone then applied retrospectively for a permit. In that particular case, other people were affected by it. So as a result of that, we're sort of being asked to issue a permit for this, and knowing that it does encroach over DTP land, and it does appear when looking at the plan as if Carwin Lane was a service road that was put in the time when the freeway construction went through to service multiple properties along that road. Now, fenced or no fenced, the road, that land still belonged to DPP. Now, clearly the applicants have done the right thing and sought the permission of TTP. Perhaps they should have sought who others had interest in this land and should have considered that at the time. But I think we have to have mindful of the fact that somebody is being disadvantaged by this, and that's where I'm coming from, Mr Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Sullivan. Would any other councillors like to speak on the matter? No? Okay, councillors, oh yes. Councillor Minari, as a mover of the motion, I invite you to close the debate.
Thank you, Councillor Wood. I suppose I won't. I'll keep it short. I don't like a retrospective application. None of us do. I'm glad that the planner worked thoroughly on this. Of course, it does sit. I am uncomfortable about this. I'll be honest. As a landowner myself, I can understand that it would cause a lot of stress. But I just feel that the applicant has gone that, once been told and become aware of the problems that they created. They have they've rectified it to how I feel, and I think I probably wish that the maybe all landowners would have gone and approached Department of Transport as well, knowing that they used that land for a long time to access their property. I suppose, as a landowner, I think if you're always using someone else's land to access your property, then I'd be nervous. So I'll leave it at that. It is an uncomfortable situation, I'll be honest, but I'll go with the planners. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Minari. Councillors, we have a mover. Do we have a second? All in favour? Against? Motion is carried. Invite the Mayor back in.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Ward. We'll move on to item 9.3, the two-lot subdivision 112 Navigator Dunstown Roads in Navigators, and I believe we have an alternate motion. Councillor Sullivan.
Yes, Mr Mayor, I have proposing an alternate recommendation which has been circulated to all councillors, so I would move that motion.
Thank you, Councillor Sullivan. Do we have a seconder or any questions? Councillor Berry.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Is it all right if I have questions of officers at
Yes,
this stage?
yes,
I
of
don't
course.
want to second it
No,
at the moment. Yep.
did you want to second it as well, or do you want to ask a question first?
No, I'd rather ask a question
Yes,
first.
by all
Thank you.
means. Yes.
Okay, I'm just asking officers, in the layout that's in the papers, it talks earlier about in 2019, council approved a permit for the dwelling on this property because they wanted a house on the farm. And now we're asking for it to be subdivided there on that section of the property. I'm a bit concerned that we are fragmenting that area, considering the owners.
With respect, Councillor Berry, a question to the officers doesn't include a debate.
Yeah, okay. So the dwelling was approved before. My question is, by approving this one tonight, could this cause fragmentation of farming property down the track?
Mr Lovell, is it? Or?
Yes, so through the chair, yes, it can fragment land because you're going to have a housing lot, which will of course be by itself, but then the remaining parcel of land, which is the agricultural lot, there may be intents down the future to do subdivisions or developments on that land.
Okay, thank you. Thanks,
Councillor Berry? No?
I'm not.
Councillor Bingham, you had a question?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. My question is of similar nature. So just obviously as part of this ultimate recommendation, there's a 173 agreement proposed on that parcel of land. So my question is, how difficult is it in the future, just like Councillor Berry just asked, how difficult is it in the future to remove that 173, or is that certainly does prohibit future development, or can they in the future make an application for amendment and then go down that path?
Mr Lovell.
So through the chair, you can apply to vary a section 173 agreement, but just must recall that a 173 agreement is an agreement with council, so we are a party to that agreement and we can say no to any variation, and also it is registered on title, so any future owner would be aware of the restriction, and of course that is a control that is applied when you wish to either prohibit or restrict an activity.
Thank you. Just subsequent, Mr Mayor. This 173, is this on both parcels of land, or is it just affecting the larger parcel?
Through the chair, a 173 agreement is going to go on this entire site, so if it is subdivided, both lots will have the same agreement attached to them.
Any other questions, councillors? Someone move. You'll second it, Councillor Bingham. Do we have any dissent? We've got dissent,
Yes,
so
Mr.
we'll
Mayor.
start the debate. Councillor Sullivan, please.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Councillors, I remind you this is a two-lot boundary re-subdivision. This is not a house lot excision to excise the house lot. So the previous application for that dwelling was on a parcel. Obviously, there was two parcels there. Obviously, that lot was less than 40 hectares because the collective lot size of both parcels now wouldn't even require a permit. So this is a re-subdivision, a boundary realignment, So the requirements of the 173, the agreement, the farm management plan that was applicable to the original application still stands and will still cover this site. So fundamentally, the ability for the house to be taken off on the smaller is good in some sense because it allows the balance of the land to continue to be used for agricultural purposes. Because there's nothing in here. Unfortunately, we didn't receive a copy of the current title configuration, so I can't ascertain as to how big the title was that the current house sits on and how big the balance title was. So this is actually a consolidation, if you like, of the farming enterprise itself into one unit and taking the house off. There is no entitlement here, either given or implied, that there'll be a secondary dwelling go onto this site. So we need to keep that in mind. So what is before us is that a boundary realignment, no more, no less. Now, the idea of fragmentation, if you looked at the parish plan of that area, you would see that's probably quite fragmented anyway, and that this land that this house currently sits on, the title thereof, is probably smaller than, probably similar to what exists in the area. So I think in some sense this actually coalesces the larger farming enterprise into one lot, which means that will continue to be used for agriculture, whereas, as I said, we don't know what title that house currently sits on, which is disappointing because it would have been useful to have known exactly what we were actually looking at. And this actually contains the house to a smaller parcel of land, leaving a larger farming enterprise. And the idea that it creates a precedent, precedent is an interesting thing, Mr Mayor. It could be a good precedent. Everyone has a negative connotation to precedent as if it's bad. This could be a good one because what it means is you have the balance of the farming enterprise in one consolidated unit which will be continued to be using for farming enterprise. And we have to be adaptive and be able to respond to the changing environment that exists in agriculture in our shire. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thanks, Councillor Sullivan. Councillor Berry.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. We continually talk about preserving farming in our area. I just feel that if we're going to section off that area, we are fragmenting it, and it opens it up for further fragmenting down the track in the future. I'm not going to use the word precedent because I think it is quite wide. Previously, the dwelling wasn't there, so in 2019, the dwelling was allowed so that the people could live on the farm. Now they're wanting to section it off, and I'm concerned that down the track, if this is sold separately from the farming property, that it becomes a whole new area, and we're sectioning off areas that are very small, and that's not in line with that whole area of being farming. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Bingham.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. The reason why I've decided to second this alternate recommendations put up by Councillor Sullivan is my single biggest issue was potential future for development. Clearly, through my questions that I've just asked, this 173 agreement mitigates that, so I no longer have any concern that the applicant's going to have the ability to subdivide. So based on that, I have no further issues with it, and I'm happy to second the recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Ward.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I oppose the amended motion or alternate motion. I note that the permit back in 2019 did approve a dwelling, a machinery shed and with a farm management plan. Now, I wasn't on council then, but I've been on council since 2020, and we have approved dwellings in farming zones on the basis that people needed a dwelling to farm their land. The rural land use strategy that we put in place in 2024 was to protect good quality agricultural land to support productivity and sustainability. And this land is classified as Area 3, which is to retain large productive lot sizes, avoid fragmentation, encourage and support consolidated land for agriculture, and avoid conflicting uses. Now, I also note that in our municipal planning strategy, it says we should be directing rural residents, residential development and rural living to strategic growth areas. So in wrapping up, this dwelling was improved on the basis it must be in conjunction with an approved agricultural activity and farm management plan. If we approve it, we are allowing a small housing lot in a farming zone, which is against our municipal planning strategy and which is against the rural land use strategy that we adopted in 2024.
Thank you, Councillor Ward. Any other councillors wish to speak for or against? No? If you could wrap it up, please, Councillor Sullivan.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. It's interesting that people sort of look at planning as if it's some clinical exercise, that this is a zone here and this happens there. It needs to be remembered that you need people to be able to farm the land to make it productive. And this development does not impact on the ability of the productivity of that farm to continue, in no way. The house, all they're looking for is a re-subdivision, not creating any more lots, no more lots. And I think the intent of the farming zone and also our strategies is to ensure to create environment that we allow farming properties to grow and to adapt to the circumstances that change. They are not to be so rigid that nothing is ever going to happen. There has to be the ability to be adapt and respond to the changing environment that exists. And I keep coming back to the point, this is a re-subdivision. No more lots are created than currently exist. So we're not creating a plethora of residential land there. There's no more lots to be existed. This is what this does. And the Section 173 that is framed as part of this condition will in fact not allow any further fragmentation of this property. No more further fragmentation. So that ensures one of the key objectives that Council has sought to achieve through the planning scheme and also through its strategies. I think, Mr Mayor, this is one of those cases that we have to consider all the circumstances and come down on the side of allowing this to go ahead. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Sullivan. Well, councillors, we have a mover and a seconder. So we'll take it straight to a vote. Those in favour? 2, 3, 4. The motion's carried. All right. If anyone wants to leave, that's probably a good time to segue out if you want. Yeah, although as entertaining as we are. So, you're happy to stay. We'll take the show on the road. So, right, okay, we'll move on to item 9.4, which we have a speaker, which is Lorraine Stuback. I figured it must have been you by the process of elimination.
Exactly. Thanks.
Welcome. Welcome.
Thank you. I'm talking to this application for 3 units in Bacchus Marsh. It's a comprehensive report by the officers that are put before you, and they've done quite a detailed assessment. When we look at the community concerns that have been raised, in terms of neighbourhood character, the proposal is for 3 double-storey dwellings. This is a transitional increase in scale from some of the surrounding single-storey dwellings. So yes, it is a change, but it's a double-storey dwelling. It maintains the presence to the streetscape of 1 dwelling to the street, with the remaining dwellings being contained within the rear of the site. The setbacks to the side boundaries are extensive in that the building form has been contained in the centre of the site, so that rhythm of spacing in the street is maintained with side setbacks and driveways. So from a neighbourhood character perspective, we think it's a good response to the streetscape. Combined with that, there's been a lot of concern with traffic and parking in the street. This proposal complies with the complete statutory requirement for car parking for 2 car spaces per dwelling. The garage on the boundary provides, for dwelling 1, provides space for 2 car spaces and a tandem space in front of it. So if the garaging wasn't sufficient for that, there's still additional space for car parking on the site. And the 2 rear dwellings also provide for car parking on the site. The other benefit of this proposal is the existing street fence is to be removed and no front fence is proposed. So that integration with the street opens up between the dwellings and the public realm. Another benefit of this, you will see by the plans that there's extensive landscaping around the perimeter of the site, so that there is a green sort of buffer around the built form. From an overshadowing perspective that people had concerns with the built form contained within the centre of the site, overshadowing is contained primarily within the site itself. So there's minimal off-site impacts to overshadowing, and certainly within what's approved by Res Code. And overlooking has been mitigated with the use of either highlight windows or windows with obscure glazing to 1.7 metres above finished floor level. I note that the access ways are compliant and that the traffic people didn't have any concerns with them. So the crossovers allow for ingress and egress in a forward manner, particularly to the rear dwellings. The visual bulk has been mitigated with the first floor of the dwellings being smaller than the ground floor, so that there's first floor setbacks and that the ground floor component of it is the prominent element to the street. It's also adopted a hipped roof form, which is, I knew this would happen, a hipped roof form, which is a common roof form in the street, and the windows and proportions are also reflective of dwellings within the street. I'll leave my submissions there.
If you've got to be more honest, the last show of the night, there is tolerance. Well, have you got something else?
No, I'll leave it there. I think I wrapped it up.
I think you were busy watching the clock.
There was something else. There is a lot of community concern with traffic and parking. These are existing conditions, not as a result of the proposed development. This development contains all of its parking on the street. There will be additional traffic movements in the street. The street caters to the 12 additional movements a day. So I'll leave it there.
Good on you. Thanks, Ray. Any questions of officers or of the speaker? Thank you. Councillor.
I have a question for officers, but I also have a question of Lorraine, if I may.
Yes.
I know the property very well, went and had a walk down the street. It's actually on a bend, and now you're going to have 2 driveways into the property. So there'll be no availability for street parking immediately in front, because currently there's one driveway, and that's on a bend. Have you looked at that situation and how the cars come around the top of Millbank there and come down, whether cars parking around there are going to block the road entrance there?
The access to Dwelling 1.
Yeah.
Dwelling 1's access, you can see on the plan how it's slightly on the angle, and it allows for the manoeuvrability on the site. So it comes out as a dwelling does now when you're reversing out onto the street. So that doesn't impact on the safety on the street. The other bit is the visibility is opened up with no front fence. It doesn't, on the side fence, there'll still be, you know, some level of obscurity because of when you're backing out there, but where it's opened up over the breadth of the site itself, that's maintained.
Okay, thank you.
You have a question for officers?
Yes, please. So it's about the parking out the front again, given that there's now going to be 2 driveways. So was that taken into consideration, but that having the 2 driveways in this build will take away from parking out the front?
Mr. Lovell.
Yeah, so through the chair, when looking at the car parking in totality, it was to see that what is the best way to get the maximum number of car spaces. So by having the 2 driveways, rather than have 3 dwellings accessing a common property and they only could have a maximum of 2 spaces contained within the garage, this development with Unit 1 actually has its own driveway. It's a detached garage, which is for attached garage for 2 car spaces, but you can also park in the driveway. So it allows an opportunity for additional parking on site by having that 2 driveway process.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Councillor Bingham, you had a question? Officers or the Speaker?
A question of officers.
And you pointed to the Speaker.
Looked, pointed. A question of officers. So just in terms of, I'm going to talk about dwelling 3. You note that one of the objections is in terms of privacy, and the council officer's response was that window sills 1.7 above and below that will obscure glazing. So just my question is, on dwelling 3, there's that larger window at the top of the stairs. Does that meet res code? Because that's not obscured.
Mr. Lovell.
So through the chair, all the habitable room windows are obscured, so that is obscured from finished floor level up to 1.7 metres. The stairwell is not a habitable space, so it doesn't require obscuring.
Councillor Bingham.
Just subsequent to that, I get that you probably can't sleep in the stairwell, but does res code not dictate that needs to be obscured? They look out. There's still I see that as a privacy issue. That's all.
So through the chair, res code just, as I said, look at habitable rooms, so such as bedrooms, living rooms. That's areas where people will be congregating. As far as obscuring, non-habitable, so that would be like toilets, bathrooms, stairwells, do not require that level of obscuring.
Councillor Bingham. Any other questions? Any other questions of the Speaker? You're excused.
Thank you.
So, thank you. We have a recommendation. Councillors, do we have someone that can move the recommendation? Thank you, Councillor Sullivan. Do I have a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Ward. Any dissent? Those in favour? So carried. Thank you. Okay, we'll move on to updates, trends, issues and other matters. It's like trains, cars and automobiles.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. No updates.
All right, thank you. Oh, that was quick. Right. Any other VCATs? We've got to have a VCAT.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll hand over to Mr. Lavelle to provide an update.
Thank you, Mr. Lovell.
So through the chair, we've got an update for 400 Lulla Falls Road in Lulla, which was the development of a horse arena auxiliary to an existing dwelling. That has been mediated through VCAT, so a permit has been granted with an extra condition, which is a 173 agreement, that for the next 20 years the horse arena cannot be extended or used for commercial purposes.
Well done. Interesting decision. Thank you, Mr. Lovell. That's all from the VCAT division. All right, any other business? Councillors, we'll go around the room. Councillor Sullivan, please.
No other business, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Freeman.
No other business, Mr Mayor.
Councillor Taylor.
No other business.
Councillor Minari.
No other business, Mr Mayor.
Councillor Berry.
No other business, thanks, Mr Mayor.
Councillor Bingham.
No other business, thanks, Mr Mayor.
And to you, Councillor Ward.
No other business, Mr Mayor.
That's magnificent, isn't it? I love it when a plan comes together. All right, the next meeting is, have we got a date? 16th of April. Thank everybody for coming. I hope you've had a win somewhere. It's a bit like the races, really. And thank you, Councillor. It's been a good night. Thank you.